Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408 is our number. Father Greg Sakowitz, the rector at Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago, and co-host Mark Teresi, executive director of the cathedral. Mark, how are you this morning?
Very, very good. We had a wonderful celebration at Cathedral yesterday, Christi Fidelis Awards.
It was a tremendous celebration, a lot of enthusiasm in terms of people sharing their time, talent, and treasure from the whole Archdiocese. It was the Cardinal Subitas and the Bishop's Way and all of us to say thank you to laity leadership for all they do. In many ways, are the unsung heroes.
Yeah, what a tremendous representation.
Across the whole Archdiocese.
And maybe a shout out, because it's our program here, shout out to our awardees, Wayne Magars, who's very, very involved in Holy Name Cathedral, 43-year plus parishioner, 43 years, and Gary and Peggy Massey, who both, as a couple, are very, very supportive and involved at Holy Name. So congratulations, Wayne, Gary, and Peggy.
I second that, and I also tell people, you are the church, we are the body of Christ. You can also get us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago.
And one thing as a prelude to Ed Gordon joining us, because we're going to talk COVID. A friend and I went to the Goodman last night to see the Las Mariachis, but the feminine. Full theater. They checked our ID. They checked our vaccination card. Everybody had a mask. And in some strange way, I felt safe. Maybe Ed will help us say, is that a good feeling or not?
That.
Yeah.
So which means if you had not shown a vaccination card, you would not be admitted.
Or if you didn't have the mask, you wouldn't be admitted.
Interesting. Well, we have a great program lined up with Dr. Edward Gordon, an author, teacher, historian. It just goes on and on. I think the author of over 19 books. And Dr. Edward Gordon will give us an update on where things are with COVID-19, the pandemic. Following the conversation on the pandemic, Edward will shift to continue the conversation on the history of the Catholic Church. He's brilliant and a great friend. Dr. Edward Gordon, welcome to the program this morning. How are you, Edward?
Fine. How are you guys?
Good, thanks.
Good,
How is
welcome.
your lovely wife, Elaine, doing?
Oh, she's fine. She's watching on on her computer as well.
And do you have your cup of coffee with you, Edward?
I have had several cups. Right.
No.
And here's mine. Where's my camera?
And
right
Ed,
here.
it's not
All right, that's good.
it's not because these are new glasses, but you're looking younger and younger every time you
do.
come on. You really
look
look
great.
great.
Well, it's because I'm on this program so much. See, you
I
guys
think-
get me up. You guys get me up at the crack of dawn, and I have to be awake by 8 o'clock so that I can give forth some information of use to all our listeners.
Great.
I think
great.
you probably hold the record as the most appeared guest on the radio program in our history, but you always have a wealth of knowledge. Now, part one of the program today, the continuing discussion of COVID-19, and the question we always ask you at the very top, Edward, if this were a ball game, not the White Sox game, but a different game, what inning are we in regarding COVID-19?
At the moment, we're at the top of the eighth.
Oh,
Top of the eighth. Okay, now why would you say the eighth and not the fourth inning and not the ninth inning?
Well, the good news is we're in another significant slump in our COVID pandemic numbers. Since September, the numbers have dropped by 25%. So here in Chicago, the infection rate is down, the positivity rate is down to 2.4%. In the county, it's 2.3. In the state, it's 2.7. But the key factor is because more people have gotten vaccinated and more people are wearing masks. Now we are in another COVID slump. Now we've seen this before, folks, where the numbers have gone up and down. But we don't exactly know why this is happening. It could be that the number of people that we're going to get infected by the Delta variant now, the vulnerables has peaked for a while. It could be because more people are following masking and guidelines. Also, the booster shots now are out. I got my booster shot with Elaine last week, which helps.
Any side
Mark,
effects, Edward? Any side
yes.
effects with the booster shot?
No.
And where did you
side
go,
effects.
just so our listeners...
Walgreens.
Okay.
It's Pfizer.
Mm-hmm.
The Pfizer booster is approved. The others will be approved soon.
Okay.
The Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are coming, but they're not there yet.
Now, Ed, did you have to make an appointment? How did that work?
Yes.
Just so our listeners
Yes,
know.
we made an appointment online and went there early in the morning, 8:30 for Elaine, 8:45, or it's 9:30 for Elaine, 9:45 for me. But we got there
Now,
early, yes.
Here's the thing. We have moved from summer until fall. Fall gives way to winter. I guess the concern that I would have, Edward, is we all know that fall/winter is the flu season. And I think one concern I have is if I were to get the flu, how do I jump to the conclusion that I don't have COVID-19? In past years, okay, you get the flu and it happens. You pray you don't. But all of a sudden this year, if I start sniffling and other symptoms, people may say, oh my God, Greg, you have COVID-19. And yet we are entering flu season. So help us out there.
Well, do you lose your sense of taste? Do you lose your sense of smell? Also, do you have a high fever extending over several days? If you have those symptoms, you should get tested and see if you have COVID. Now, remember, we just had a new drug that has been approved by the government that will help you. The Merck now has a new drug, an antiviral pill that hopefully will be out soon and available through prescription. So if you get those symptoms and have COVID, your doctor may prescribe that pill for you and keep you out of the hospital.
Interesting.
Right? So those are a few of the things that you should keep in mind coming up.
Now,
but
Ed,
again,
I'm sorry,
yes,
Ed.
go ahead.
I was going to ask you, going back to my example before we brought you on about the Goodman Theater, was there last night. They check your card, your vaccination card. They check your ID, and then you have to have a mask walking in. And I was surprised there were no staggered seating. It was full. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, if you're over 65 or have other medical problems, get your booster shot.
Okay.
That will give you the added protection. By the beginning of February, I had the first Pfizer vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So the effectiveness of that was beginning to wane. That's why I got my booster shot when I did. And I'm going to be traveling out to California for a few weeks at the end of this month. And I wanted to have that extra protection for the airplane and when I was in California. So I don't run the risk of getting the infection. So I think that I just was in a crowd the other day giving a speech, and I think your partner there,
Mm-hmm.
Father Greg, was with me, sitting there listening to my, I hope, fairly persuasive
You gave an
presentation on another issue.
Job shot.
And I felt safe, and I haven't heard from any of the 55 people who were at the Cliff Dwellers Club that anyone has gotten sick.
Greg didn't try to come up And use the mic. Did he at all?
I did. I said the
Well,
opening prayer.
he
Oh.
did, and he also is trying to help the Bears win.
Ah,
I'm afraid
it
it
worked.
didn't work.
It worked.
No.
No, that week it did not.
Oh,
They
did
played
it?
Hopefully,
Cleveland.
From
Did
what
not
I was
work.
talking about trying to get more people trained and educated to fill all the jobs we have, I'll be a little more successful than the Bears.
And by the
but
way,
that
Mark,
remains to be seen.
Edward gave
Maybe
an
another
ounce.
time I can come on this show and talk about Job Shop.
You can do that
But
too.
today, let's talk about this.
Edward's presentation was outstanding, also for question and answers. Edward just is a great historian, speaker, author. And now regarding COVID-19, Edward,
Yes.
I know you don't have a crystal ball, but are you expecting numbers to shoot upward as we get toward Christmas in January, as it connects with the flu season and colder weather and people more indoors?
Well, now that's a very good question. And I just watched Dr. Fauci answer that question. And I have the text of what he said sitting here in front of me. And this is what he said: wear your masks. If everyone wears a mask, remember, when you wear a mask, it's so that if you are carrying right now, Father Greg, you could have COVID on you. And if you didn't have a mask on, you might give it to Mark. Mark, you may have COVID and you might give it to Father. By both of you wearing your masks, you prevent that from happening. So it's still very important to do that. Remember, this is a world health emergency. 700,000 Americans have died now. That's more than in any war we have ever fought. Is this a conspiracy? Is this a political movement by some party to discredit the other party? Is this a conspiracy by the pharmaceutical companies to make more money? The answer to all those questions is no, 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 no. Remember this: the Spanish flu now killed fewer Americans than this has.
Wow.
How many Americans died?
The Spanish flu killed fewer Americans.
Now
I knew
that's-
you were going to ask me that, and I have the numbers here somewhere.
So where Americans
And I
have
will give
lost.
that to you if I can find it. But it was like 600,000 Americans died of the Spanish flu. Now we're up to 700,000, and probably the excess deaths that we had last year, which many of those were COVID related, we're probably really over 1 million dead.
Now,
All
Edward,
right?
along those lines, I've had people say to me, you know, Greg, the numbers are so inflated. Someone dies of a heart attack, they call it COVID-19. Someone dies of pneumonia, they call it COVID-19.
No,
And I just don't
I'm
understand
sorry.
people
No.
who are so anti-COVID that this is just a conspiracy. It's a way to scare people. And those people, some of them are my friends, you just can't reason with them. And it's very
But the
frustrating.
reason why is there are over 500 anti-COVID sites on social media right now spewing forth propagandistic lies to people. And this is unfortunate because when those people get sick, they're in the hospital, they're dying, they're saying things to doctors like, boy, I'm sorry I didn't wear my mask. Or where their father or mother dies and they maybe are sick and they feel maybe they infected their parents. They say, boy, I wish I had followed the guidelines.
You know, Ed,
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No,
I was
go
just going to say, Ed, before we take a break, what's your message to those folks who are unvaccinated? At this point, unvaccinated.
They're high risk of getting the infection. And many of them now, the numbers who are dying, even though the numbers infected and dying at this moment are low, they are at risk, greater risk of dying than those people who have been vaccinated and wear masks.
So please,
in Alaska right now, they are starting to ration care. So people are coming in. They got 3 people COVID, 1 with a heart attack, and they're deciding which one to save because they only have 1 ICU bed available.
Wow.
So they're deciding, they're picking who's going to live and who's going to die because
Wow.
they don't have enough beds.
Wow. So
Now, this is a real tragedy.
it
And
is.
it's happened all over America before in hot spots. This is the truth. I'm a historian. I tell you what the facts tell me. This is the truth.
And we either learn
international health emergency. There have been 4.8 million people who have died around the world of COVID.
So we either learn from history or we ignore it and continue to make those mistakes. WNDZ 750 AM on your dial. We're going to take a little break. Catholic Chicago, or you can watch us on YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago with Dr. Ed Gordon. We'll continue our conversation on COVID-19, the pandemic, his historic perspective on it, but also I want to ask when we get back about the holidays coming up. What, if in your insights, what can we plan for this holiday season? We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Do you have an old bicycle that's not being used? Consider donating it to Catholic Charities Veterans Bike Project of Lake County. Skilled volunteers are refurbishing bicycles to make them safe and ready to be used by veterans to get to and from their new places of work. We also gratefully accept financial contributions that are used to purchase bike helmets and other safety accessories. Our veterans have faithfully served the United States, and now it is our privilege to serve them. For more information on the Veterans Bike Project of Lake County, call 847-782-4219. That's 847-782-4219.
Welcome back.
Es fabuloso verlos.
Dobrze jest znowu być razem.
It's good to be together again.
After so many months apart, pandemic capacity limits have been lifted, and we want to welcome everyone back to church. We can all pray together again. And listen as our choirs lift their voices in song.
We've been together in spirit.
And now, when you are ready, our doors are open wide.
Nuestras puertas están abiertas de par en par.
Nasze drzwi są otwarte.
And we're here to welcome you back to Catholic Mass.
Ancestry and genealogy are more important every day. People all over the world are wanting to learn more about their family heritage for personal and for health reasons. At Catholic Charities, we are hearing from adults who lived for a brief time at St. Vincent's Orphanage, the wonderful life-affirming agency that operated out of our headquarters for 91 years, serving thousands of women, children, and families until it closed in 1972. Our post-adoption services help adults who want to learn more about their experience at St. Vincent's. Our compassionate staff members provide whatever family background information they can offer, along with support and reunion services. To learn more, call 312-655-7093. That's 312-655-7093. The spirit of St. Vincent's lives on in the inspiring stories that continue to emerge today.
We're back. Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM. On your dial, 312-255-8408. Or you can see us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Dr. Edward Gordon talking about the COVID-19 pandemic. He's giving us some updates and some hopeful messages. We're in the 8th inning, he said, of this pandemic. Ed, when we took a little break, said when we come back, I wanted to ask you about the holidays coming up. What are your thoughts in terms of can we even prepare for them in any particular way?
You're not on there.
Look, COVID is not going to go away anytime soon. This is going to be with us a long time until people reach some form of immunity. Now, 56% of Americans have at least are fully immunized, and 65% have had one shot. And now you have people who have had the virus and maybe don't know about it and have natural immunity. But the fact remains that by Christmas, this virus will still be with us. It will ultimately become like the flu, where it's going to be around. You're probably going to get a shot, maybe every year. I don't know yet. We don't know about that yet, but it could be. All right. So if you're going to gather for Christmas, make sure everyone that you're with has had their shots. All right.
No, stop right now, Edward. I have to stop you. If you have a family gathering, this is where it gets. People have been battling in families regarding weddings and holidays coming up. I can name 2 families now that have had this past summer wedding gatherings, and members of the family not invited to the wedding because they were not vaccinated have caused wars within the family. Anger, hatred, name calling, and if this happens again for the holidays, for example, if the family's getting together, but a sister's not allowed to come, or a brother, or the spouse because they're not vaccinated, this is really, talk about tension, it runs high.
Well, look, ask those folks, when they were children, did they get vaccinated for measles, polio? Remember when you were in school, how the school required you had to be vaccinated to go to school. You had to show proof. I remember that back in the 50s when I was a child, and we had to be vaccinated at that time. So ask them, were they vaccinated at that time against polio?
Edward,
if they say no, they weren't. If they say no, they weren't because their parents didn't believe in vaccinations, then they have a real problem understanding modern science.
Edward, I've actually used that.
So many people have died. Yeah, but so many people have died in this century because they were not vaccinated, but the majority haven't.
But Edward, I've used that argument, which I totally agree with you, about polio, about measles, and the response is, but with the COVID-19 shot, we don't know long-term effects to my body. Regarding the COVID-19 shot, it's all overrated. Regarding the COVID-19 shot, no one's going to tell me what to do. But especially the one, there's no proof that 20 years from now, it will not affect me in another way. And therefore they're saying, guess what? I won't go to the Christmas party for the family. I won't go to the wedding, and battle lines are drawn. But I do agree with you. The question and reasoning is outstanding. But even with those excellent questions, people have a comeback on why I refuse the shot.
There is no data to indicate that any of that is true. The numbers of people who have died or have had ill side effects from measles shots, polio shots, flu shots is infinitesimal compared to the numbers of people who refused the shots and have died.
Yep.
Remember the Black Death, the plague. Mm-hmm. This is the plague. This is a modern version. Will this happen again? Possibly. Another animal virus will transfer to humans, and we'll have another plague like this. This is real. People are dying from it.
And the thing is,
if people do not believe in science, then maybe they should stop seeing doctors entirely. Maybe they shouldn't go to the hospital when they need an operation, because there are always risks every time you go to the doctor. If you have surgery for an appendicitis, prostate, he'll tell you that there are risks. Yeah, there are risks for these shots. They're tiny. They're infinitesimal.
And the thing is, Edward, everything you say, I'm in total agreement with. It's what people who have not been vaccinated come back to me. Why? With all the logic, all the scientific data, all the reasoning, say, that's nice, Greg. I refuse the shot because of, here's my reason. And the number one cause I keep hearing over and over again is because there's not been enough studies regarding the long-term effect of the vaccination shot. Therefore, I refuse to do it because it may affect me 20 years down the road somehow. And it's like talking to a wall. By the way, our number is 312-255-8408 if you want to jump in with a question for Dr. Edward Gordon. Mark?
Yeah, I want
wait, let's respond to that for a minute. Maybe the 500 sites on social media that are spewing forth these lies, half-baked propaganda, they sell advertising. They're making a lot of money for some people.
Sure they do.
Yeah.
And if that's the only way in which you get your information is by listening to social media, and you don't read anything else, any in-depth information from any other source, you have a problem because you're being victimized by propaganda.
And also, if your stat holds up, which it's a legitimate stat, the 65% if at least one shot, they know that their population, between 35 and 40% of their base, is going to listen to what they're saying, the propaganda, because they haven't had the shots and they're buying in. I wanted to switch it back to something I had talked about earlier and get your opinion on this. So the holidays. So at Cathedral, we struggle. We struggle with how are we gathering folks? Can we gather folks? What's safe? One thing's on the agenda is our Christmas concert, which is a full, 43-piece City Lights Orchestra. It's a stunning, we call it the Rector's Sounds of the Season. We had one. We didn't do it last year. Everything looks like they do 3 or 4 of them. Everybody is planning on this concert. Then this is a long question, but I'm going back to my Goodman experience last night thinking, is it legitimate for us to think, well, if we ask people for their vaccination card and mask to come into the concert, we're pretty safe at Cathedral to have an event like that during the holidays?
Well, there will be risks. I guess, Father Greg, turn up the ventilation system so you circulate a lot of air. I mean, there are times when I'm in the cathedral in the summer and it's I can really tell the air conditioning is blowing hard. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need to turn up the vents some more, but mask up, vaccine up, and those are the safeguards that we need to take. Okay. So let's take a look at what the infection rate is
at that
time. Right. All right. We're getting closer and closer to mass immunity. We'll never have 100%.
Right.
But again, we want to safeguard people's lives as well as their souls.
Exactly.
So let's do that by getting a shot, and let's not do it by repeating this tidal wave of lies that are now tied also to politics.
Exactly.
Which is unfortunate.
Exactly. We're going to take a little break. WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago. 312-255-8408, or you can see us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Dr. Ed Gordon. When we come back, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to continue our conversation on the history of the Catholic Church. Ed will take us back to where we were when we left off at the last show.
I think it was the 6th century. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure, but we'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Catholic Charities has continued to respond to the needs of people who come to us for assistance. More than 850,000 meals and food parcels have been offered to those who are struggling with food insecurity. Over 108,000 homelessness prevention hotline calls have been answered. Over 22,000 people have received mental health services, and $2 million in financial assistance has been provided to keep people housed.
Catholic Charities in Lake County provides a comprehensive range of social services supporting individuals, families, and older adults. These include crisis assistance, shelter, clothing, family support, counseling, legal assistance, primary health care, and specialized services for seniors and veterans. Grab-and-go meals and food pantries help those who are experiencing food insecurity. Plus, we have a diaper depot to support low-income families and their infants. If we can assist you or someone you know, please call Catholic Charities of Lake County at 847-782-4000. That's 847-782-4000.
The cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
I am a seminarian.
The Church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Catholic Charities has continued to respond to the needs of people who come to us for assistance. More than 850,000 meals and food parcels have been offered to those who are struggling with food insecurity. Over 108,000 homelessness prevention hotline calls have been answered. Over 22,000 people have received mental health services, and $2 million in financial assistance has been provided to keep people housed. If you or someone you know needs assistance, email us at gethelp@catholiccharities.net. That's gethelp@catholiccharities.net. Or call 312-655-7700. That's 312-655-7700. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
We're back. WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial. Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here. 312-255-8408. Or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. And we're with Dr. Edward Gordon. And we're moving in our program to...
Before we move to the next segment with
Yes.
Dr. Gordon, I have to do a shout out to Brian Hockey Hitman Brock.
He's really buzzing around there.
He's by himself in the studio doing the work of 4 people, and he's got a big smile on his face. Also, he and I are both diehard White Sox fans, and we go to the playoffs. We go to the playoffs on Thursday. I do like their chances, but they have to steal a game in Houston. The Bears, by the way, won yesterday, but Where the Bears are not a
They
good
look
team.
good. They look good.
The Lions are worse.
Yeah, I know.
But a win is a win. You take the win and now move on to the Raiders next week. So that's been our sports segment.
And by the way, the Cubs finished only 26.5 games out.
And by the way, they set a major league record in the history of baseball. They used this season 67 players.
Yeah.
68 players for this year. A record 68 players on one roster because of injuries, trades, whatever, bringing guys up. And
what a great process, because they only ended up 26.5 games out.
And
so it must have worked.
I'll tell you, they got some guys in the pipeline. They're going to be good down the road, but it'll take a couple of years. So bring it back, Mark.
So Dr. Edward Gordon, let's talk history. History of our church. Where were we when we left off, and keep us moving forward?
Well, today is a historic day in the history of the Catholic Church in the United States, and I challenge both of you to tell me why.
The Feast of St. Francis of Assisi.
That's not the case.
That's important, and that's sort of tied into what we're going to talk about next.
With all the religion.
No, today in 1965, Pope John Paul
the Vatican
VI
too.
addressed the UN, and that's the first time, of course, the first sitting pope ever traveled to the United States, but it was the first time any pope ever addressed the United Nations.
How about sports for 400?
I was going to say that, but you beat
Sports
me
for
to
400.
You beat me to it, Ed.
Okay.
Very good,
All right.
Edward.
So anyway, Father Greg, you have a great memory because we are going back to the 6th century. How do you remembered that from a long time ago when we were talking about this?
What a great guess.
We're going to talk about, and you guys are going to ask me about the rise of the monastic orders, which started in the Middle Ages. Before the orders were organized, there were monasteries scattered throughout Europe. Now we're in the 500s in Europe. The Roman Empire has fallen. But the first religious order to organize a widespread number of monasteries and have a rule were the Benedictines. And in 529, Saint Benedict, who is considered the father of Western monasticism, organized the Benedictine order. Why is this so important? Well, he wrote a rule. The rule is the way in which these monks would live in these monasteries and follow on a day-to-day basis. Maybe some of you have gone to either Mont Saint-Michel in France, which is a Benedictine site, or you have gone in Italy to Monte Cassino, which is also another Benedictine site.
Beautiful.
There is a movie that you could watch, Into the Great Silence. In fact, I think I gave Father Greg a copy of it.
I don't think
when he was recuperating.
I don't think he read it. You said Great Silence?
The Great Silence, right. Well,
yet to be read.
Edward, you gave me the DVD, but I have not watched it.
I visited both of these sites, and pilgrimages occur to both of them. Now, Monte Cassino, of course, has been destroyed several times by earthquakes, wars. During the Second World War, the Germans used it as part of a fortified line to stop the Allies. We bombed it. When I saw it the last time a few years ago, it almost had been totally restored to the way it looked. And it had the contributions from individuals had done it. No government money was involved from the United States.
And it's not easy. It's not easy, Ed, I remember when we were there with a group from Mundelein, a lot of steps. I mean, it's physically a challenge.
Yes, it is. And many older people couldn't do it now. There's also a huge cemetery filled with Polish soldiers who fought in the British Army. When I was there, Lech Walesa had just been there and had placed flowers in that cemetery.
Beautiful.
And Monte Cassino is off the coast of France. Also too many steps to get to the top of Monte Cassino. A beautiful site. I highly recommend it to all of you going to France. It's right next to Normandy, the Normandy beaches. So The other order, of course, that Greg just touched on is St. Francis, the Franciscans in Assisi. That is a mendicant order, which are a traveling order of friars who rely upon people to give them sustenance. And when St. Francis died in a small little chapel in the valley right below where they built the monastery, he told his people, don't build me a monument on top of that hill. So immediately what they did is they built the monument.
On top of
So
that.
I visited Assisi before the earthquake because they had the tremendous mosaic, the panels in the church that fell down and killed a number of people. That's all been restored. St. Francis is in the crypt underneath the church, but all that's left of him is in an urn because they've taken so many relics from him. All that's left are pieces in an urn now. Also, too, St. Scholastica is there, the founder of the religious order for women. She is preserved in the crypt. There's a wax effigy over her body, so she looks like a young woman sitting in that church.
Now, what about St. Clair? What about St. Clair? Don't forget her.
St. Clair. I'm sorry, St. Clair. Yeah. That's right. It's St. Clair.
Oh, it is? Oh, I thought you were talking about both.
It's St. Clair. It's not St. Clair. It's St. Clair. Now, the Trappist monks also in Europe called the Cistercians. After we visited Monte Cassino, we visited another nearby monastery, and the Cistercians are a much more austere group than the Benedictines. The Benedictine church is very elaborate, many statues, many beautiful frescoes. The Cistercian church was very plain indeed.
Ed, could I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
So the Benedictines, around 529, whenever, right around there, what has sustained them for all these years? I mean, they've grown.
That's a very good question. And I was just going to get into that.
Oh.
You read my mind.
Well, that's good.
What causes young men to become priests? All right. Now, in each age, it's different. In the Middle Ages, the choices were very limited in terms of what young men would do. Most people were farmers. This is the age of serfdom. This is the age of subsistence agriculture. There was no international trade. If you didn't grow the crops in your area, you basically would starve. All right. Men were drawn to the church as nobles, and others died. They would dedicate and give land to the church. That's where all these monasteries and churches came from. Same thing is even true today in the United States. A lot of the land in downtown Chicago was given to the church in past years, and the Archdiocese owns it, and they lease the land upon which the buildings stand in parts of downtown Chicago right now.
Now, Edward, a quick question.
Edward,
why do men join the church? Important. In the Archdiocese of Chicago, Edward, in the Archdiocese of Chicago, with the Passionist priest, the Holy Cross priest, and some of this land goes back well over 100 years. Did these religious communities in Chicago buy the property at a nominal price, or was it given to them? See, I always felt like
most was given to them. I think they did buy some.
Interesting. That's very.
And some of these are, of course, missionary orders.
Yes.
Our past cardinal, as you both know, was an oblate father, which is a missionary order. That in the 19th and 20th century, early 20th century, that was a huge number of people in Western Europe and the United States who became priests, became missionaries.
I think of that area we got to go to a break, but I think of that area like Techney on Waukegan Road, I think it's a little bit north of Glenview. Huge property going back to the 1800s, 1850s, 1860s. Maybe that property was given to that order community, and they had to sell off some of it in later years.
No, wait.
Is it leased?
It's leased. That's the wisdom of that order. All that stuff on Waukegan Road on the other side of the street, and also to further, a little bit further east, because when I was at Munline, we talked to them about that. All of that is leased property to fund their missions in the future. And
so the community still owns a property.
Yeah.
And I know a missionary, Divine Word, who was in New Guinea as a missionary for many decades and finally retired, and he recently died at Tech.
Yeah, at Tech. We're going to take a little break and come back. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago. YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're going to be back with Dr. Ed Gordon and continue our conversation. Fascinating on monastic orders in the history of our church. My wife gave me, we want to go to Ireland. My wife gave me a book on Ireland. How many monasteries are in that book in terms of from centuries ago? Anyway, we'll be back. It's a fascinating conversation. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Catholic Charities Veterans Employment Services help veterans find and maintain employment through job readiness training, resume writing assistance, mock interviews, and job placement counseling. We work with a wide array of employers and community partners to help veterans reach their career goals. We owe a debt of gratitude to all of our veterans for the sacrifices they made to serve our nation. It is our privilege now to assist them. To learn more about Catholic Charities Veterans Employment Program in Cook County, call 773-808-2954. In Lake County, call 847-782-4219. You can also learn more at CatholicCharities.net. To all United States veterans, thank you for your service.
I feel special. I feel great. I got good grades.
We've seen a huge surge in our kids now meeting or exceeding grade level. Come check us out. You may have never thought we were an option before.
Are you looking for quality, affordable childcare at this back-to-school time of year? Look no further than Catholic Charities Child Development Centers. We have 2 locations conveniently located in Berwyn and Summit, offering before and after-school care, as well as full-day childcare. Each center offers a safe, welcoming environment where children receive a nutritious breakfast, lunch, and snack while participating in a creative, age-appropriate curriculum that is challenging and fun. Preschoolers enjoy art, music, literature, and computer activities, while our school-age program includes homework help, art, sports, music, field trips, and more. Catholic Charities staff members are highly qualified, caring people who want the very best for every child. Our child care centers are especially popular with working parents. Enroll your child today. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net/childdevelopment or call 312-636-5398. That's 312-636-5398.
We're back, Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here, WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Dr. Edward Gordon, talking a bit about the history of monastic orders here in our church. That's the part of history we're discussing this morning. What about Ireland, Ed? That book that my wife gave me has all these monasteries in Ireland.
Well, yes, and the monastic movement in Ireland was very important because that, in many ways, helped to spread the monastic movement across Europe.
Oh, wow.
And it was monks, Irish monks and others who started schools in the monasteries and then later in the cathedrals to help educate children. Some became monks, others were not, but that was extremely important. But the whole idea of religious life and missionary life here in this country, it's a good example are the missions of California, the 21 missions still existing that you can visit. Father Yerna Paracera was a Franciscan who started those missions in 1763. And they had been already spread throughout South America and Central America by the Spanish, mainly to the Native Americans, not only to convert them to Catholicism, but also to create a peasant class to occupy Spanish America, because the Spanish didn't want to come from Spain to the New World. They didn't deport people like England did, sending the dissenters and other convicts to America, indentured servants. But Sarah is very important because this question of why men become priests today is vital. When you looked at those commercials a minute ago, those of you that are watching us on YouTube, you saw all those gray-haired priests. Yes, we need more young priests. I wanted to point this out, that there is a group of lay people called Sarah International. They're made up of Catholic lay people, and they're across the U.S., and they have clubs, and they are meant to try to encourage men to become Catholic priests. And they're having their international conference here in Chicago, October 7th through 9th at the Palmer House.
Are you going to it, by the way?
I will be going to part of that, yes. I was invited to come. They're having their banquet at the Cliff Dwellers. That's how I met the head of Sarah International. They don't have all the answers.
No.
I'm not saying they do. But the point is, unless we encourage young boys, adolescent, and older men even to consider and discuss the idea of priesthood, we have right now a crisis of priesthood because of postmodernism and the challenge of spirituality in modern life. The three of us and those people listening believe in the church and the value of our faith.
Let me add this, Edward.
Encourage others to do this.
I totally agree with all you're saying. Now, make it real clear, the priests of the Archdiocese of Chicago, we are diocesan secular priests. So I'm not a religious order. I'm not a Dominican. I'm not a Franciscan. I'm not a Holy Cross priest. Those are religious orders. The Archdiocese of Chicago, the University of St. Mary of the Lake Mundelein Seminary, where I spent 4 years in the theologate, and Mark spent 15 years as director of development in later years. The men ordained at Mundelein were diocesan parish priests. So I chose, when I entered Niles College Seminary years ago, not to join a religious community, but I wanted to stay in the Archdiocese as a parish priest. And God is good. You know, God is good, and I feel so blessed with the gift of priesthood. But a quick question in the last few minutes, Edward. When you talk about the rise of monasticism, the question is why? Why the rise of the Benedictine order? Why the rise of the Holy Cross community, which of course is later on? But in any religious community, going back to the 6th and 7th century, why did it even originally arise? What was going on in that world at that time that have the start of any monastic group?
Yes. Well, the Roman Empire fell around 476. Europe splintered into basically little fragments. There was no unified government. The Age of Faith was the age in which the Catholic Church became the principal social institution in Europe. The monasteries, the monks, the priests, they were one of the major, in fact, they were the major carriers of civilization. They preserved the manuscripts and books of earlier time periods. They were the ones who set up the first schools and hospitals and hospices. They were the ones that supported the building of the great cathedrals of Europe. We'll talk about that next time. Many people have visited those cathedrals. I'll talk about it. The church was a spiritual and social institution. It was the center of life in the Middle Ages. That's why this occurred, and that's why many men were called to it. Today, spirituality once again needs to be a center of our civilization. And we need the faithful, that they are the church, but we need an ordained priesthood as well in order to give us the transubstantiation, the sacraments of the Eucharist, the other 7 sacraments that we have to sustain us in our work. So, Father Greg, you're going to live to be 150. We need you. You can't leave. You can't leave.
Rector of the cathedral.
And we'll help you by giving you health tips, won't we, Mark?
Exactly.
And Mark, and Mark and I are I noticed Mark was left-handed.
Yes, yeah.
I'm left-handed too, which proves that we're in our right minds.
Exactly.
All right.
No, that is great.
Keep telling Greg that. Keep telling Greg
That's
that.
right. So I hope that answers your question, Greg.
Do you have we're going to wrap it up in a little bit, but do you have a favorite religious order that you kind of gravitate toward?
Well, when I was a child, I had Polish Franciscan women, the Felician sisters at St. Linus taught me, and they did a good job.
Good.
And then the Marist brothers, who were from France originally, they certainly did a good job.
And
then at DePaul, we had Vincentians, that's right. And this is the 50th anniversary of my graduating from DePaul, and I'm chairing the alumni festivities in the middle of this month.
Oh, congratulations.
And I can't believe that Edward
Father
is
Cortehue and Father Richardson
39 years old
now, and others.
Well, give the date. Give the date and time.
We ran out of time.
15th. We're having a lunch on the 15th of October for the 50-year club for us that have thus far survived.
Edward, have to bring it to a close. Dr. Edward Gordon has been our guest this hour. Edward, you'll be back again. You are phenomenal.
Yes.
Give our love and hugs to Elaine, and thank you special to Mark Teresi, co-host, and to our producer, engineer, who did everything this morning, Brian Hockey Hitman Brock. To all our listeners, God bless you. Great week. Go White Sox. Go Bears.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.